Welcome to the BXG podcast, the podcast where pop culture and nerd culture meet at the nexus of the universe and are melded as seamlessly as domestic terror and veganism. I'm one of your hosts, Bretton Bestwick, alongside my co-host, the interim Q shaman, Greg Filson.
Yeah,
Greg, how are you?
I'm doing okay. I don't have my gear with me right now, but just in a sweatshirt right now. But I'm okay. It was obviously a weird week, but I'm ready to talk about things that aren't part of this weird week. So yeah,
right. We'll acknowledge that there was unrest last week, and there were some crazy individuals who decided that they wanted to invade a building that's on the back of money, which is never a great idea.
No,
from where
unless you're stealing the Declaration of Independence.
Which it seems as though it may be easier to do than we had thought. I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, if it's that easy to get into the Capitol building, then maybe stealing the Declaration of Independence is not as difficult as Nicolas Cage made it seem. With all that being said, you know what? This is my problem, is that dude ruined my next Halloween costume. Because that was what I was going with. You know, I can never wear my buffalo hat and Dickies dungarees out again. I can never do that.
Yeah, well, I mean, you know, you can't. He probably ruined a lot of people's costumes, although people probably will go as him now as a joke, and because they don't get it, and that'll be great.
Yeah, what a world we live in. The BXG podcast publishes every Friday at 7 a.m. on Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, Pandora, Amazon, Alexa, and other podcast services around the globe.
Not on Parler. Not on Parler.
I don't know what that is. It's it's like a Twitter alternative. Like, I don't understand. Is that what it is? It's like Twitter alternative?
But I think it's kind of like that. Yeah, it's
Twitter.
There it is.
There it is.
There's always something worse.
Speaking of Twitter, follow our official BXG social media accounts. Facebook.com/BXG Podcast, Instagram @BXG Podcast, at Twitter @BXG Podcast, YouTube.com/BXG Podcast, where the piece reviews are now going up at a much faster clip.
Nice.
I think I got like 8 on yesterday total, or thereabouts. Wow. I got a bunch more on. So I'm hoping to have the rest on by the end of the week. It's just whether I am able to juggle that with some of the other things that I'm working on. But it doesn't take me long, so it's not like a big deal. So those are getting there. You know, more video content coming. I had the opportunity last night to go on to our friend Dallas, DJ Outros. He's getting a podcast going. He's going to record a bunch of episodes and put those out. So kind of, I think his plan is to record a bunch and then kind of put them out. That way he has a bunch to work on and kind of create like a backlog or whatever. I know he's planning on having Greg on at some point. I had a lot of fun. I'm confident it did not go the way that he thought it would. But I had a lot of fun and we talked about a lot of stuff. And I'll say that I was probably a little bit looser than I am on this podcast most of the time. It might have been because it was very late at night. Yeah, we got into some good conversations, and that'll be coming in the next couple weeks, and so we'll definitely give him a shout out whenever he gets that out.
Cool. I'm looking forward to being on. Maybe it'll be a John Mayer appreciation podcast.
I'm sure. Well, that's the thing, is like it's centered around his podcast is going to be centered. It's supposed to be centered around like music and the music that inspires us and different things. And we did have some good conversations about some of the different artists that I'm into, and, you know, movie scores and a lot of the things that we've talked about on here as far as like John Williams and Ludwig Göransson and things like that. But as things tend to do around here as well, they got off the rails several times. We talked a lot about the political stuff going on. We talked about 90s wrestlers.
Excellent.
We talked about just all kinds of wild stuff. So yeah, we'll see. It'll be fun.
Speaking of that, I'll wait till the end. And I'll bring this up. So
okay,
just
right,
keep people listening. I won't. I'm going to put it in my show notes right now.
Okay, very good. We do have one correction from last week. We said that, or I said, and then you agreed with me that Penelope Cruz was the female lead in Blood Diamond.
I love
But
Penelope Cruz. I'm not sure what happened there. I think I just kind of blacked out
well,
and thought of a different movie.
we had just been talking about Blood Diamond too.
Yeah.
But it's actually Jennifer Connelly is the lead in Blood Diamond. And fun fact for you, that's my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movie, is Blood Diamond.
Wow. I never heard anyone say that.
Really?
No.
I mean, he's got a lot of good movies. That's just my favorite movie.
Wow. It's good. You know, I think it was probably pretty high up there. I'm not sure to pick my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movie. Probably The Beach.
Shut up.
No, I don't know. I like the Romeo and Juliet. I like that movie. I don't know. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is actually my favorite Leonardo DiCaprio movie. That's one of my just favorite movies.
Sure.
I love that movie.
Yeah, no, Blood Diamond's mine, and we can get into that on a different, because it'll probably make my top 10 dramas and action movies when we do that. It'll be towards the bottom of it, but I think it'll probably be on there.
If The Departed didn't have Jack Nicholson just mailing it in, that movie would be really high up there, but because they're really good in it. Everybody except him is awesome in that movie. And then there's the rat scene, which really just blows that movie apart.
I think that The Departed is one of the most overrated movies of the last 20 years.
Oh, yeah, I don't disagree. It's awesome until it isn't.
Right. And I feel like I have a problem with that winning best pick, or Scorsese winning best director for that, the same way that I have a problem with Kobe winning MVP the year that he won MVP, because he wasn't the best director that year and Kobe wasn't the MVP that year. They were basically lifetime achievement awards. There wasn't strong enough competition. The reality of it is that, and you can say whatever you want, and obviously we don't get into, we try not to say, we say it every week, this isn't a sports podcast, and then we talk about sports for 15 minutes. From 2008 until now, you could make the case that LeBron James should have been the MVP every single season, except for the year that he got hurt.
Well, yeah, I mean, this is Karl Malone and Charles Barkley winning MVPs when Michael Jordan played. I mean, it's just people getting
100%.
tired, and it's fatigue and whatever. I mean, Michael Jordan proved it, when he won the finals over those guys, and that's, so that's the difference.
I think that The Departed is kind of the same, and I'm not saying that Kobe shouldn't have won MVPs. He should have had MVP seasons. It was just the season that he won the MVP. I didn't feel like he was the best player that season. With that being said, back to Scorsese. He had so much better movies than The Departed.
Oh, sure.
So many better movies.
It might be his worst movie.
That's probably apt. I can get down with that argument. But with that being said, we do have a great show tonight. 2 Live Crew is here.
Oh, excellent. I wasn't sure we were going to get them, so I'm glad they came through.
They were free. We have a very heavy 6-pack this week. I think it's a 6-pack of Tall Boys.
Oh, yeah.
No clip of the week for this week because I've been so busy with so many different things that I just didn't get a chance to really scour the internet to find a good pick of the week. But we do have a clip of the week, sorry. But we do have, and this is the thing is like some of these quick hitters could be main topics.
They could be main stories normally.
Yeah, so we're going to go with those. But we do start with number 1, and it is unfortunate news. It's with a heavy heart that we have to discuss.
Thoughts and prayers.
Thoughts and prayers indeed. That after 8 years of marriage, it was announced that Kanye West and wife Kim Kardashian West are separating, and that Kim intends to file for divorce. As discussed numerous times on this podcast, Kanye's mental health is all over the place, which is likely a contributing factor, as well as his failed bid for the presidency. We talked about, if you go the whole way back to episode 1 of this podcast, we talked about the Kardashians going into their last season of Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and some speculated that a large part of that was due to Kanye's mental health.
Mm-hmm.
So with all that being said, and this being more your arena than it is mine, I'm going to go ahead and throw you the ball and see what you have to say on all this.
Honestly, when the news first happened, it first came through, and it happened right after we recorded our last podcast, and we thought about doing an emergency add-in or whatever, but I think it's better to kind of let it digest instead of just having this reactionary thing. My reactionary thing was, I was shocked, honestly, because this is like one of those things where it's like they both worked for each other. This was a thing, but then the show's over now, is it? Because now we have this whole thing where we got this divorce thing going on. Is this E special edition, Kim and Kanye divorce, which I will watch. I will be all over that if it happens. And then you start reading about everything that happens. Apparently, like this, YouTube star Jeffrey, is said that Kanye cheated on Kim with him. It's just he's this famous like makeup person on YouTube. I don't know. It's super like it did bum me out because I always talk about how much I love like. I'm not saying anything. Everybody loves early Kanye, like the old Kanye and everything like definitely. This. And I still like to think about young Kanye and when he was just really like the best rapper. There was a time where I think people thought he was going to be the best rapper ever. There was a point, and then he really just went off. And Kim is just one of these people. I mean, she's really going in a different direction. I mean, she's serious about going into the law and getting things done a different way. And good for her. I don't think she really. I mean, she always is going to care about the spotlight. That's Kim Kardashian, but I think she is caring about it in a more serious way going forward. And having Kanye with whatever's going on with him by her side is probably not the direction she wants to go. And while it's sad, you don't want to see anybody break up like this. I think it's probably going to be better for both of them. It's going to get Kanye maybe off of the spotlight for a little while. Maybe he can get some therapy or something just to kind of help him out. Because there's no one is probably rooting harder for him to come back and put out like an awesome album than me. I would love for like 2 years from now, Kanye puts out an album we're all like 5 stars. This is incredible. This is the old Kanye. And I'm also I always root for, why would anyone root for Kim Kardashian? But there's a reason why that show was popular, and it's all because of her. Like, Chris runs the show, but Kim was the reason people showed up, and Kim's still interesting to me. And if she really does go on with this law stuff, I think that's cool. I think that she's proving that you can become famous for something and use that fame to kind of elevate yourself to, she really wants to get into all this kind of like legal stuff. And I think that's cool. So I'm sad, but I think that it's going to be best for both of them going forward. I really do. I really hope that Kanye figures it out. And Kim's seems fine. I mean, this sucks to have a divorce and with kids involved and things like that. Whether you're rich or not, you still have kids and you still have things like that going on. So, in all seriousness, I really hope it does work out for both of them. I think this does help both of them in some way, shape, form going forward.
I am on record on this show saying that I hope Kim Kardashian's kids don't learn how to read because she got a free PlayStation. So I feel slightly bad about that now. Just because, as much as you are in the spotlight or whatever, I'm sure it does, it sucks to, it probably puts extra pressure on to now have to go through this with all eyes on you. This isn't just a standard sort of thing, but Louis C.K. said in a stand-up special at one point after he had gotten divorced, no good marriage ends in divorce, so this is a good thing. Right. And that's true, and he said, it would be horrible if there was a good marriage and the people just got divorced. But I don't think that... My reaction was when you sent me the article, because it was like 2 hours after we finished. And of course, this was the first day that we decided to record in an afternoon instead of in the evening. And then this broke. My immediate guttural reaction was, they were married 8 years? It was really that long?
Yeah, they had been married for a really long time. It didn't really shock me just because I had been watching the show in the sense of but then I just it wasn't shocking that it was it was 8 years. It was shocking to me that it lasted 8 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And sound like not because it felt like okay, and it's nothing against either one of them. It's just a lot of times with these high profile things, they just don't work.
Right. And
it's actually kind of amazing that it did. And really, it was only the last, I would say, 2 years where it felt uncomfortable.
Sure.
Uncomfortable. Yeah. So that's, for where they're both at in the public eye, I really, really do hope through all this, because I think Kim's gonna be fine. I really do. I mean, it's just she's can go on and do her thing. I really do hope this is where we see the flip in Kanye.
Do you think that kind of the final straw was maybe when he had his quote unquote election rally and how badly that went? Do you think that maybe that was a kind of the beginning of the end? She had to, like, he was saying wild stuff, and she had to come out and defend everything that he said and say, listen, you don't understand mental health. He's got these issues, and like maybe at that point it had just become too much.
I think the beginning of the end was when he decided to like even throw his hat in the ring.
Sure.
I think that actually is more the beginning of the end, and then this was the end of the end. I think this is where she's like, I can't be taken seriously as like someone that actually wants to like be more serious in my life going forward, because Kim's like 40. I mean, she's got a lot of years left of like actually having like to be in the spotlight and having someone that has power. Like, she has gone to the Senate and she has spoken about different things, and it's like she wants to be taken seriously. And then if you have him there, and everyone understands that he does have his mental issues, but it's still hard to take her seriously if this guy's floating around saying wild, crazy stuff, all the time. And I think, when that happens and that went completely crazy, I think she probably just, talked to a lot of people about it. And this is one thing where this was not something that she just decided in the moment. This had been building up over time, and she probably was just like, we gotta change things up. And I read that they're going through counseling and things like that, but I think really for both of them, it's probably time to move forward by moving separately forward.
Well, I remember when we did the topic about her completely tone deaf birthday party where she quarantined everybody and bought that. I don't believe he was there.
No.
From seeing the pictures and things like that. So I think just following her on social media has kind of shown that they haven't really been together in a while.
No.
You know what I mean?
And also, he just didn't want to be part of the show. Like, there's a lot of different things where it's like, I mean, but it's like, if you're going to join into the Kardashian-Jenner thing, and you either kind of decide you have to be on this show or you don't. And like, he was kind of wishy-washy about it at first, and he was on like when they first got together and things like that, and then he kind of was like belittling it a little bit for a while. And it's like, you know what you're getting into if you're with any of these people. I mean, you just if you don't, you just have no actual like foresight of the world. You're basically blind. And he seemed almost kind of shocked by it, and it's like, no, she was like crazy famous before this, and you are also crazy famous. How do you not see this? And I don't know, but that's probably just more to do with Kanye than anything.
Yeah, Godspeed for him. He's, like you said, one of the greatest rappers, and I'm right there with you and hoping that he just gets back to making music and that kind of being his focus, or at least just being creative and using his forces for that sort of thing instead of just whatever it is he's been up to here for the last couple of years. Number 2, the challenge. MTV's The Challenge in Review. This week, challengers descended into a cave, and one partner had to wear a VR headset and give directions to their partner who was piloting a drone. The challenge was a complete disaster, as only Devin and Tori were able to finish, making them the de facto winners. Back at the house, Josh decided it was a good idea to pick on Jay and assumed that Devin would put him in based on their previous interactions, and tried to get Jay to be the house vote. The house voted for Double Nelly T and his nondescript partner Amber M. And then when they arrived to the arena, Fesper whispered to Tori to send him in, as it was clearly a hall brawl. The challenge ended up being a guy's elimination, as 2 females had been recently evacuated for medical reasons. And Fessy went in against his alleged friend Nelly, which pissed off Corey and Josh. And after he defeated Nelly with some dirty tactics, he also chose Casey as his new partner, which further pissed off Leroy and Anissa, who are now partners, which left Meshi and Amber M, the 2 smallest people in the house, as partners.
I'll go with what Jay said at the end of the show. Dumb from the beginning to the end. That's Fessy. It literally, I mean, every week I talk about how stupid he is.
Yeah.
And it was he literally has no idea what he's doing. Also, the thing that kind of shocked me in the hall brawl, he is huge. I mean, he was a tight end, Division One tight end. Okay,
What'd they say?
6'7",
6'7", 250?
6'7", 250.
Yeah.
Okay. Nelly is Double Nelly T, our guy, friend of the program.
Okay.
He's like a in shape person. Okay. He is, when they showed them side by side, it was insane looking. Like that, it should have never even been close. Fessy should have just like blown him up. They should have just been bone shattered. So that was weird to me that Fessy like wasn't just that much significantly stronger. Like there's a lot of things where I am fast and I can move. But if you and I were doing that, it should be fairly close to that same. You should explode my bones if we're running full on each other. You're bigger than I am. That's a thing, and it's like it was this one thing where I thought maybe that like on the second run, I thought Nelly was just going to jump over him because that's what I would do.
I thought so too.
That would be my method because you're not gonna like
line of thinking that I had. Yeah,
because Nelly was going Fessy was going super low every time, and he was also like ripping face like it was so weird how he had to play dirty, and then you're like, like what the heck? You are a physical specimen, and you can't just beat this guy that is probably at least 60 pounds lighter than you and significant. I mean, your actual height really doesn't matter in something like that. But man,
because like you said, he could have maybe because he kept trying to go low.
Yeah,
he could have
just jump up
potentially.
I don't know. I guess we're seeing, it's like anything when, running backs jump over, linebackers, and the linebacker kind of knows it's coming. You get, your nuts crunched. I don't know, but like that's the only way that Double Nelly T was going to win this thing. So I'm not sure. I think his rage like oversaw his thinking ability where he like, cause he was so mad that he was like, oh my God, my friend here.
Alleged.
And yeah, so that was weird. How about the little part in the beginning where they got like super emotional about like Big T? Did you catch that? That was weird. Yeah. And she was like sent off to her mom's sister.
I can't remember she said she's not originally from England.
Right.
And
she was like a gift.
Yeah.
She was like a gift from her mom to her sister.
Because they don't adopt family. Wherever she's from.
So that was definitely weird. I wasn't ready for that. But this whole drone thing was high comedy. Because just when they said they had to memorize a code, I was like, this eliminates so many people immediately. Even if they get through this, there's no way that people are going to memorize a code at all, except for like, there's maybe 3 people you would trust to memorize a code, and Devin was one of those people.
Devin was one of them, yeah.
And of course they were the only ones who even get through it. It was funny how bad they were. Everyone. Like they literally couldn't figure it out at all. It's like they had never even had like an RC race car as a child, which
right. I think that you're moving versus, because oddly enough, we've been playing with RC cars here recently.
Nice.
But I think moving a drone in 3-dimensional space instead of just forward, backwards, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
When you throw in some verticality, it might change things. I'm just trying to find a reason why these folks weren't able to do this. I think it was.
I mean, there was like 2 groups there that were out within like 30 seconds. Yeah. TJ was loving it.
Oh yeah.
He was having. I think it was literally put there just so we could watch TJ make fun of people.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to what I was saying the one week about the challenges could maybe use some fixing up a little bit. I think we get trivia every year, and that's great for TJ laughing at how dumb they are.
Yeah.
But like this was like, to me, the first couple times it was funny, and then when it was literally everyone, it was like, well, they just shouldn't have had this challenge because these people are clearly not capable of completing this task. And that was kind of an issue to me. I want to see them actually be able to do things instead of like, oh, here's a drone. And like, this was just like a plug. I don't know. The VR things were probably like Oculus, and Oculus gave them a bunch of money and gave MTV money and said, here, do something with this. And so that's what they came up with. I would much rather see, a challenge like the previous weeks where they're wrestling on the back of a semi-truck. Like, that's why I tune in. I'm not tuning in to see these people not be able to pilot a remote control.
I like how Fessy didn't want to like do the thing where he had to read the numbers, and my comment on this was, I'm pretty sure he doesn't know what numbers are, so I don't think he would have been like, it's a squiggle. What do you? And then he like had it. I would have loved to see them actually finish and then him try to memorize something. That would have been funny, but we weren't going to get that.
As I've said, I hope you never run into Fessy, and I hope he's never listened to this.
I'll jump over him.
You probably just run. Here's the thing: was that kind of aggravated me was like. TJ even acknowledged after the first round, like, Fessy, no more dirty play.
Yeah.
He should have just been disqualified.
Yeah, he should have just been disqualified. I didn't understand. I mean, you want to keep Fessy on the show. I mean, as much as I make fun of Fessy and as bad as he is actually at the game, because he proved how bad he literally doesn't understand how this works. That you have to kind of have people like you, otherwise you're going to just get thrown in.
Well, he pissed off everybody.
Yep.
And he put a target on his buddy's back, Casey.
Yep.
And, like, this is, like, the problem with him is that he can't see past what's right in front of him.
Right.
And this is a perfect example of that. All he saw was Hall Brawl and thought, I'm 6'7" and weigh 250 pounds. It doesn't matter who's in there with me. I'm going to beat them. Which leads me to believe, like, what if he'd have gone up against CT?
Oh, yeah. CT
you know what I mean?
is gonna. Here's the thing: if CT cares, which we still don't know,
debatable.
CT,
yes,
yeah, that's one of those things. Like, I have no idea if CT cares. And I still kind of think that he's gonna win this thing because like no one even remembers he's on the show.
He's just coasting.
He's literally. It's so funny. He makes jokes a lot. I mean, he's just like he's so different than like if you can, people go back and watch like early seasons of this. Find the Real World he was on.
Yes.
Crazy person, like actual crazy. It's awesome content.
Yes.
He's so different. You would not. This is someone that is like, I have made money. Living's easy.
Yes.
Living is so easy right now. These kids have no idea how this show even works, and I'm just gonna coast through this. Like, you literally he doesn't really show up on the challenges or anything. Like, there's nothing there. He just makes a couple jokes.
Right.
He laughs at his own jokes, even if they're not funny, which I love. And he's just kind of there, and you're like, are you even competing? Like, you kind of just like, is he the co-host with TJ?
Right. He should. Maybe that should be a thing.
It's just so funny because I literally think he's going to get to the final part because people just aren't considering him.
Well, he's got to win. He's got to win an elimination at some point. So
yeah,
we know
and he will. It's not. And the thing is, like, the only bigger person is Fessy. But CT's actually smart. This is one of those funny things that people forget because, like, he is Boston. He's got his accent and all that stuff.
Yeah.
CT's no dummy.
He's real smart. He's real good at puzzles.
Yeah. He's really good at he talks about how good he would have killed this thing if they would have got there. And it's like, he's big and strong and he's smart. So it's like, it would not shock me at all that if he wins. I really like Devin because he is such an a-hole. Like, he's so... I mean, he basically is what I would be if I were on these shows. Right. I feel like this is probably why I like him because, like, he's not the biggest or strongest guy in the room, but he is smart enough that he knows, and he's someone that seems like he's watched these. Because I think that's a big thing with this is having watched maybe previous iterations of it and understanding how the game works.
Right.
And a lot of these people have just been like, well, I was on Big Brother or whatever, and it's like that's not the same thing as this. And I know what Big Brother is. I haven't watched it, but this is still a different show. Like, we
talked about Big Brother last week a little bit and how neither of us has watched it, and maybe we should. And we did have a listener comment on that from Bob Sacamano, who said he and his wife watched Big Brother. They love it, and Fessy definitely did not win Big Brother.
Okay,
so there's that. Definitely did not. It was almost condescending. How he portrayed that.
I love that. I think, there's so many things about this, but I think at the very end, I love that Meshi and Amber are together. Literally,
it's episode 4 of this season, and I thought Amber was Sylvia the whole time.
Oh, yeah, that wouldn't shock me. Also,
they're both like mannequins.
I also love that when you have multiple people in the show, how it's like the initials. Like Amber M, and then TJ has to say it. That's the thing that cracks me up. It's like, well, we have Amber M. Instead of just like saying you know, and there's the other Amber who I don't even know. I can't even think of
I
who
was
she
gonna
is.
say, who's the other Amber?
There's two Ambers.
Get out.
And yeah,
No,
there's two Ambers on the show. Also, I forgot Jay was even on this show until he made the comment. Like, until he was like, there's so many people on the show you forget even exist because you're like, they have no shot at winning this thing, which I also love that. I love when there's people on this show that have zero chance and then they make a comment and you're like, you're on this?
Jay was on Survivor. That's where he got his reality TV start. I believe he was also on Big Brother. Jay getting eliminated on Survivor. Maybe that's the clip of the week. I might actually try and find that and pull that up. Because his reaction to getting eliminated was so awesome that I'm going to see if I can find this.
I do have a question going forward with these things. Are only people that are on these shows going to be on these shows? Are we ever going to have new people?
Like fresh meat?
Yeah, like a fresh... Because I actually love the fresh meat. I thought those were like some of the best ones where you had these people that are like, you know, I watched this show and all I've wanted to do is come at so-and-so and stuff like this. And you don't... I mean, you have that in a different aspect, but it's like they have no reality show aspect. And, you know, there's no... I just feel like, you know, I'm not too old for this, but I'm too old for this to ever... But there's no chance of me being on this show. Which is just... Unless I get on something else, which just doesn't seem fair to...
Well, that's my problem, too, is because it used to just be you're on the Real World, and then you get to be on the Challenge. And it was always exciting because you'd watch a Real World season and be like, oh, man, I can't wait to see, you know, Jordan and how he's going to be on the Challenge. I can't wait to see, you know, Leroy or whoever. And that's kind of... You don't have that anymore because so many of them come from, like, British shows or, like, Florida Bama Shore or, you know, Are You the One? I guess Are You the One is the closest thing now to the Real World.
Yeah, we don't even have we don't even have the Real World anymore.
No, and that's the one that I would like to see the most. And we talked about this in a previous episode. I'd like to see the Real World come back. They might have to make some changes to it, to the format a little bit, but that's the show that I'd like to see come back and kind of resume its place as the primary feeder show to the Challenge.
Yeah, same.
I do have that up, so we'll take a look at it during clip of the week time. So we'll go on.
Sounds good.
Number three is our watch or pass review of the history of swear words on Netflix, hosted by Nicolas Cage. The show reviews 6 curse words in the English lexicon. They're broken down into 6 20-minute episodes. Each episode gets its own word, starting with the F word, the S word, the B word, the D word, the P word, and the other D word.
Yes. And
they kind of, it's like a documentary, and they explore the origins.
Yeah, it's really good.
And how they, came to be. You know, I think everybody knows that bitch is a female dog, and that was kind of where that came from, and it sort of evolved into a derogatory term for women based on, you know, them being domineering or whatever. But some of the other words that they cover, and it's hilarious.
It is, and they get really good people on here. Yes. Nick Offerman's on it, Sarah Silverman. Yep. You know, and then you get like people who are like actual like people that study words for a living. Yep. And they give you all this content, and you're like, because just a word to everyone, I have watched all the content that we needed for this show in the past 13 hours because I have been super, super busy and have literally not had the time, and had football on this weekend, so I I watched that too, and it was like, so I put all this in my system literally I watched the last episode on Damn right before we recorded, and you know, Nick Cage was the perfect person to host this.
100%.
It's insane how perfect he is because like he's kind of in on the joke. He has no problem like selling it.
Yes.
It's like when they talk about the P word, he's like painting. He's getting super into like a painting about it. But you also like here's the thing about Nick Cage and whatever you think of him, like he's good enough of an actor in that Nick Cage sense where it's like he's still like. He still captivates you, and when he comes in there with his little, you know, introducing new things or giving you a little more context, it's like, man, this was like, I mean, you're hitting that nail so square with the hammer with this pick. It was so I was trying to think like, is there anyone else that would have been like good?
No,
not even close to Nick Cage. I really don't. They killed it with this.
His like you said, he's in on it. The joke of basically what his role is, and he overacts so like, I don't want to say badly because it's not bad, but he overacts so strongly that it just makes it all the funnier. The scene that comes to mind for me specifically is when they're talking about how bitch wasn't added as a derogatory term to Merriam-Webster's dictionary until 2015, and he's going, what is this book from 1886? And he's like you know, wrestling with the dictionary or whatever. Hilarious. Obviously, I would say don't watch this if you're offended by any of these words.
Oh yeah, it's definitely, they go overboard.
Throughout. Yes. You know, the very first episode starts with it's the F word, and it zooms in on his glorious Nick Cage face.
Yeah.
And he says, "What the fuck are you looking at?" And it's just from there, it's just all uphill. It's all uphill from there.
It's so good, and it was also one of those things where like you're starting the new year, and we have so many weird things happening still. And you're like, this was a good kind of release away from that, because it's like, oh, we can still be funny. And like, there's also been this thing, and, you know, as someone who really enjoys comedy, and, you know, there's this thing where like maybe PC culture's got a little too far, where we literally everyone's offended all the time. And it drives me nuts, to be honest with you. I mean, like, people get to the point where like Jerry Seinfeld's offensive to them. I mean, this is where we're at. Yeah. And like to have a show like this come in and be like, here you go, here's all this cussing right at you, and like, you know, if you're offended by this is not for you, but this is for all the people that are like missing something funny. And I mean, having Nikki Glaser, who is someone that like people, I'm guessing, I mean, I like her, I have no issues with her, like her comedy, but you're very much, I'm guessing, a person you either really think she's funny or you don't. Same with Sarah Silverman. These are all people that really like hit those, you know, they're very much the polarizing comedians of this genre. And then we got Eagle Mike.
Yeah, Open Mike.
That was
Eagle.
awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mike Eagle. I'm sorry. That was awesome. Like, if we had just been talking about him, he was like a nice, like, he was an oddly cool voice of reason in this, of like talking about swear words, which I thought was really, really cool.
Yeah, he doesn't on that album that I've been listening to, which I actually just bought that on vinyl.
Nice.
He doesn't curse too much. I mean, it's in there, but it's not like he doesn't go overboard. I'm just trying to think of some of the other, like, they brought in the guy from The Wire. For the shit episode, because he's like the king of shit. And then I was shocked with, they broke down actors on screen who use the F word, who's used the most F words, and it was Jonah Hill.
Yeah,
like,
Jonah Hill.
Wild, because everybody obviously assumed it was Sam Jackson.
Wolf of Wall Street, man.
Yeah, right.
Because Leo was really high up on there too because of that movie.
Yeah. But, I mean, like I said, don't watch it if you're easily offended by... But the other thing, too, that I liked about it was, you know, kind of the science behind some of these things.
Yes, yeah.
And how, like, cursing can increase your pain threshold. They did that. Yeah. They did, like, an ice bucket challenge in one of the episodes, and how it can, like, help your adrenaline level and things like that. I think that there was very, you know, it wasn't just, you know...
It was funny, but it was informational.
Yeah,
it was
it
was just informational, if you will.
Sure, it wasn't just Nick Cage being goofy and a bunch of comedians cussing. There was actually some pretty good science and history and things behind that. So
I think if you're someone that, like, because, you know, I went to school for journalism, you're a history guy, right? And it's like one of those things where it's like it covers those bases. Like, right. I love words, and we've discussed this before, where like Taylor Swift loves words, and it's like this is one of those things where like, I really love words. I like the breakdown of words and things like that. And you get that in this show. It just happens to be cuss words. But like, if they wanted to take this a different direction and even break down other things, I would watch it as long as Nick Cage is hosting.
Right.
I wouldn't mind seeing a seventh
words that I feel like they could do a second season.
Well, they got to have this. Here's the thing: is there's a word, I don't use it. I only use it for special occasions, for people that truly deserve it.
Let me ask you this question. Yeah. Is it a word that's very, very loosely flaunted in my homeland?
It's the C word.
Yeah. See you next Tuesday.
I rarely use it. And when you're in retail, you'd like to use it more,
Right.
but you can't. And there's a very small amount of people that I have used it, and I usually use it to their face if I use it.
Right.
That's how I feel about that word. It's not something I like to use. I find it extremely offensive, actually, for me as someone that doesn't. But if you are one, and I say it to you, you have it coming.
Yeah, sure.
It is.
That's
And I
like
can't wait for that because we're gonna have that episode. I think.
It's like a term of endearment in England.
Right.
They use it like as a term of endearment, and that was one of the other things they got into. That was really interesting is how some words are more offensive some places than others.
Right.
So yeah, it was definitely. I think it was just the first episode alone. I was like 10 out of 10. Must watch.
It's a total must watch. It's quick, 20-minute episodes too.
Yeah, you can bang it out in 2 hours. It's the length of a Marvel movie.
Yeah.
So
Total watch.
Greg Way, Kevin Feige, the chief Marvel Cinematic Universe overlord, had a lot to say this week at a WandaVision press event. Feige discussed the upcoming show, as well as the decision not to cast Chadwick Boseman, confirmed that there will be more Avengers movies at some point, confirmed the length and time of the She-Hulk movies, the Deadpool 3 will be R-rated, that his Star Wars movie that he's producing is going to be written by Loki Disney Plus series writer Michael Waldron, and he also gave a very wishy-washy answer surrounding Andrew Garfield and Toby Mcguire's involvement in the still unnamed Spider-Man 3 sequel. So I think we should tackle these kind of like one at a time.
Yeah.
The first being number one, obviously WandaVision. The first 2 episodes are going to be available this Friday. So we'll be having WandaVision in review, starting with next week's BXG episode. So I don't know if that means that we won't do the movie thing or not. What do you think? Because we're going to have Challenge and we're going to have WandaVision.
We'll have Challenge, WandaVision. We could probably do a movie/TV show, though. I mean, yeah.
I have 4 nominees that I'm going to post.
Okay.
And we'll do a poll. I'll post them sometime today, and that'll give us a lot of time. So yeah, WandaVision comes out this Friday. It's the first Disney MCU show. Obviously Scarlet Witch and Vision, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, with appearances from others. We've talked a lot at length about the decision not to recast Chadwick Boseman. He kind of reiterated the same thing that was said at the Disney investors meeting, that they're really going to explore Wakanda itself almost like a character. So She-Hulk, which will be the first MCU show on Disney Plus not based on an existing character, and it'll be 10 half-hour episodes, which is in contrast to, I know Falcon and the Winter Soldier is only going to be 6 episodes. I don't know the length of the episodes. She-Hulk, 10 half-hour episodes. I feel like that will probably be the standard for She-Hulk, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, some of those other series. What do you think about that?
I mean, I'm gonna watch everything. It's just one of those things where when you become a Marvel comic book nerd, you're gonna probably put in anything you can. I mean, like the cartoon stuff, I don't necessarily watch.
Right.
And, here and there, I have actually watched like Spider-Man, stuff like that, just because it's on or whatever. I'm excited. I mean, I'm really pumped about WandaVision. I really am. We talked about it, the I Love Lucy vibe. Obviously, Winter Soldier, and that's gonna be awesome. I just like that show. I'll tell you right now, it's probably gonna be one of my favorite shows in all of this. I just think that's gonna be so cool. And the thing we've learned about The Mandalorian with all this Disney stuff is that you can get almost cinematic experiences watching a TV show.
Right.
I think all these are going to be at least good, and I think I think some of them could be great. I think WandaVision can be great because I think they kind of know what they're doing. Watching the previews is ooh, they're trying to make this like that old school kind of sitcom thing and go in a completely different direction. I think that'll be a lot of fun.
I don't think every episode's going to be like that.
No, I don't think every episode, but I think it's going to be somewhat I think it's going to be a little tongue in cheek.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's going to be the point of that show. Initially when I heard She-Hulk, I was like, whatever. It's not like a character I ever invested any time with, to be honest. But I think that's kind of a good thing because they can kind of go whatever direction they want. Sure. Because I think they kind of know that people haven't invested in a ton of time with this, and so I think that'll be fun.
As Guardians or Ant-Man in that regard.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. And those movies are great. I mean, there's one of those things where it's like you take a character that people haven't invested a lot of time, you can kind of do whatever you want with it. You're not even going to have like the comic book nerds come at you and say like, well, this and this and this. Well, actually, it's like no one's going to care. They're going to base this based purely on the show, just like you do with Guardians and Ant-Man.
Sure. Yeah, I think with She-Hulk, they're bringing Ruffalo is in. He's going to be involved.
Yeah.
Tim Roth, the Abomination, is going to be involved. So we're going to see some familiar faces. I am most excited, like you said, for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I think that's going to be the closest thing we get to an actual MCU movie, as far as how you want to consume those, length and time and things like that. I think that Falcon and the Winter Soldier is probably going to be the closest we get to an MCU movie. We talked about Hawkeye. It wasn't really mentioned here. Deadpool 3 R-rated.
I'm excited. I mean, because Ryan Reynolds is still, he's still Deadpool. And
right.
I think as long as Ryan Reynolds has his say in this kind of thing, which I feel like if he decides to be involved and he agrees to do this, then we're getting just the Deadpool movies that the first one's really good. The second one's okay.
Right.
But it's still, it still has its moments. And, you're going to get the MCU stamp on this one. And
well, that's the thing is I hope Deadpool's not part of the MCU.
Well,
because he breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that character breaks the fourth wall. And that would be really jarring to have that be part of the MCU. So I hope they just kind of leave it as its own thing.
I should say it's part of not the MCU, and but it's
Marvel
part of
Studios.
it's not a separate entity anymore.
Right.
It'll be a separate. I agree with you. It should be a separate entity within this.
Right.
But I'm glad. I mean, these movies are what they should be. Deadpool movies are exactly what they should be. If you've ever read a comic book Deadpool, it's
right.
They actually nail it. I mean, it's very much the same thing, and I mean, I'm excited. It's what made Ryan Reynolds kind of come back again, and it's basically his identity is being that guy.
Yeah,
and he's always been this kind of funny. Had two guys, a girl, and a pizza place. That was how he's always been, and now this movie just kind of brought that out.
Did you watch Detective Pikachu?
No, I haven't.
Because he's the voice of
right.
Pikachu.
Yeah, I'm sure I would like it. I just haven't actually got to it.
Right. I think I need to watch it again because I fell asleep during it.
Happens.
But the reason I fell asleep was because I was watching it while working a midnight shift.
Ooh.
And so I just kind of nodded off for a little while. So, in any case, he talked about so it's in the quick hitters, but I think it's something that he talked about. So I'll just bring it up here. It's that Loki is already season 2 is already in development. So apparently they're real high on that show, which I see no reason not to be. We got the trailer and it looked great. It looked weird and great, but Owen Wilson is involved. Well, he was asked about to confirm or deny Andrew Garfield and Toby Mcguire's involvement in Spider-Man, and he said something to the effect, and I'm paraphrasing, this isn't a direct quote, that speculation has often been wrong and couldn't be further from the truth, but oftentimes speculation is also right.
It's like a politician move right there.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah.
That's
really
want to pivot and talk to us about your economic plan next? So, we haven't really... I was under the impression that they were confirmed. I mean, we reported that they did based on a report from, I believe it was IGN, but...
Yeah.
Apparently that it's not official, and even if it is, they haven't really talked about it. So the other thing here is that he is producing a Star Wars movie, and it's worth noting that Kevin Feige is, as I said, he's the MCU overlord, and Kathleen Kennedy is sort of the person who is in charge of all the Lucas film and Star Wars stuff. So it's interesting to see that he's going to be doing a Star Wars movie. All he remarked on that is that the writer of Loki, Michael Waldron, who won an Emmy for Rick and Morty and worked on Community, is going to be the writer of that movie. It's also worth noting, and this is completely separate, that Star Wars is taking a very hands-on approach to Rogue Squadrons, which is the Patty Jenkins movie, and that's in the wake of Wonder Woman 84 not being received very well. That they're kind of, going a little bit more hands-on than maybe they previously would have. What do you think about Kevin Feige doing a Star Wars movie?
I mean, he made Marvel movies awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I'm gonna trust someone in our current platform of movies and everything, he's probably the guy to trust.
As far as a producer goes, yeah.
As far as a producer, right? I hope I'm right because as we talked about in the Star Wars podcast, I think that he respects the products enough that he can be the guy in control without being too much overboard or anything. And it wouldn't shock me if like these bring the Star Wars movies back. I mean, nothing. It's just nothing can be Empire Strikes Back, which we talked about, but just right this ship a little bit. And I think he can do it. I think he's gonna get the right people in charge. I think this is what made these Marvel movies so great. Is he righted the ship. Not that there was anything wrong, but there were those Fantastic Four movies that were really bad, and those Hulk movies that weren't great, and things like that, where it's just like nobody knew. And then Iron Man comes out, we had no idea that was going to be. I remember when it first came out, I was like, well, hopefully it's good.
Yeah,
but he's the he is the overlord, like you said, and if I'm gonna pick someone, it could do a lot worse than him.
Sure. Yeah, I think here's the thing. You said you can never have Empire Strikes Back. Why not? Because maybe it's a case of. Here's what I think. I think if they stay in the galaxy far, far away, that is a long time ago, but get away from the Skywalker saga. Get away from it.
Yeah.
Tell your own story. It can still be the Republic. It can still be Jedi. It can still be Sith. Get away from the Skywalkers, because that's where everything ties back to the originals, and it's just not as good. I think that's why, season-ending cameo notwithstanding, that's what makes The Mandalorian successful, is because it doesn't touch any of that stuff.
Right.
Very little. You know what I mean? It's the Venn diagram is loose, to say the least. But that's the thing, is tell your own story. I mean, I think, the thing about the Marvel things is they understand the products, they understand the characters, they understand the stories. But even look at something like Civil War, which that is a graphic novel that you can go buy. You can go buy Marvel Civil War, and it's Iron Man versus Captain America. But is the movie Civil War the same as the book or the series Civil War? No, I mean, there's elements that are the same.
Yeah.
Sure, there are elements that are the same. But it's not the same thing. But they understand it enough that they're not beholden to these previous properties, that they have to tell the exact story, or they have to work these characters in, or they have to shoehorn, character X in just for fan service. I think The Mandalorian gives you plenty of fan service without uttering the name Luke Skywalker until the last episode of the second season. Or Vader, or Han Solo, or Chewie, or any of these iconic Star Wars characters that we know about. It is successful by telling its own story. And I think that if he understands that, and I think that they are starting to get that with The Mandalorian and then some of the other properties that they're going to work on, they're starting to understand that you can do Star Wars that is satisfying to the quote-unquote old guard of Star Wars fan like us, and then also be exciting and fresh and new for people who are just coming into it. Because I think that you don't have to be a Star Wars fan to watch The Mandalorian and appreciate it.
No, I don't think so either.
I do think that you have to be a Star Wars fan to watch the sequel trilogy and appreciate it. Or even Rogue One. Like Rogue One, we talked about in the Star Wars ranking episodes. It's a great movie. It doesn't necessarily always feel like a Star Wars movie, but to really appreciate it to its fullest extent, you have to have the understanding of what it means and how it, plays into A New Hope and that sort of thing. But I do think that, like you said, he's the guy. He's like King Midas when it comes to the MCU. Everything he touches turns to gold. Nobody gives a crap about the Guardians of the Galaxy. No. Nobody gives a crap about Ant-Man. Nobody gives a crap about Captain Marvel as characters. I mean, they have their fans. Doctor Strange, they have their fans. They may have those characters might have their hardcore fans, but Captain Marvel did over $1 billion.
Yeah.
Black Panther did over $1 billion gross at the worldwide box office. And, those weren't, we've talked at length, the Avengers were the B team for the longest time behind X-Men and Spider-Man. And if the Avengers were the B team, then these guys were the JV B team. You know what I mean? And he's making them successful. Part of it, though, is I think that he's hiring great directors and allowing them to do what they do.
Right.
and not being overbearing as a producer, because a lot of people, maybe they see the name producer, they don't understand what that means. The producer's the kind of guy that keeps everything in line, keeps everything on schedule. We've talked about with Wonder Woman how the producers wanted Patty Jenkins to cut one of the early scenes, and I think that they don't do that. Like, he hired Taika Waititi to do Thor Ragnarok, and that dude turned that franchise and that character around.
Yeah.
Because Thor was the wet blanket of the Avengers, for sure. And then Ragnarok, in 2 hour and X amount of minutes movies, literally made him the coolest character in the Avengers.
Yeah. You were always so excited when he came on screen.
Right.
And it was that movie, and you just got a little... It was just that slight... What's funny is, like, it's just funny enough.
Right.
Without being too much on the nose. It's like,
Yes.
okay, we get it. You know, he's this, like, god kind of thing.
Right.
And
but once he started
it.
being a little bit goofy is when the character really took off. But, you know, he put Ryan Coogler in a place to make Black Panther. He's put Jon Favreau in a place to do what Jon Favreau does. So I think that's what it is, as much as anything, is not just having a great producer, but also a producer that understands that these filmmakers know what they're doing and let them do what they do.
Yeah.
So I think that, I mean, he's definitely the guy. So I'm going to be keeping a close eye on that Star Wars movie. I don't see, you know, there's not a whole lot of talk about Star Wars movies outside of whatever his project is and whatever, you know, Rogue Squadrons. So it'll be interesting to see how those move forward and how they do move away from the Skywalker saga, which I think is much needed.
I think you just need to take a fresh, like, it's what Marvel's going to have to do going forward without Cap and without Iron Man. And you know what they're going to do is they're going to do it, and it's going to be awesome. I mean, I know they're going to do it. I really do. And I think that's what's going to happen with this. I think we're going to move forward. I think it's going to be really good. Like, you know, like you said, why can't it be? I think it's just more or less like that kind of thing that's in your heart about Empire Strikes Back more than anything.
Yeah, sure.
You know, I think it's the nostalgia of that movie where when you're a kid and you see that for the first time and you're like, holy cow. But maybe they can make something that's actually technically as good.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think? We didn't really touch on this. What do you think about his comment that there will eventually be more Avengers movies?
Yes. I like whatever they want to give me with any of that. I mean, like, Captain America is my favorite character in this, but they made me interested in every character in you know, characters I didn't care about, like you said with Guardians of the Galaxy and stuff like that. It's like I had no interest in it. I was like, no, this movie's great, and whatever they do, they somehow have, like you said, the Midas touch. They figured out a way to make people that weren't interested in comic books super interested, but it also, they did a really good job of making comic book people like these movies, which is so hard to do.
Yes,
anytime you take a thing like, that's the hardest thing to do, is to take people who actually care about something, like with the Star Wars thing, and be like, hey, this isn't exactly the storyline, but nobody's given the well actually with like Civil War and the Infinity Stones and things like that. Everybody's just like, no, this is a cool take on this.
Yeah. I think that there's an understanding of, to an extent, of it's kind of like based on, you know, not directly. Number 5, ongoing Cyberpunk CD Projekt Red development rumors following the messy situation that CD Projekt Red faced after the Cyberpunk 2077 launch on December 10th, 2020. There were rumors pointing at the game's rushed development process, which led to cutting a lot of major content from the final product. It was also suggested in the rumors that foreign investors of the project and top managers at CD Projekt Red had forced their own ideas and political opinions into the game over the original developers. However, in a new comment on a CD Projekt Red forum, one of the company's employees marked all these rumors are as false information and said, quote, "We usually do not comment on rumors, but this is simply not true," unquote. Although the quotes and the information mentioned in the rumor post could be false, CD Projekt Red obviously can't deny that. Cyberpunk 27 was launched with some of the promised content cut from the final product. The most notable content of this game is probably the existence of 2 other legendary characters besides Keanu Reeves' Johnny Silverhand that never happened, despite the fact that it was promised by developers in the marketing program of the game. A class action lawsuit has been filed against CD Projekt Red by investors as they took a 50% stock hit after the development and the issues. And now the Polish government's Office of Competition and Consumer Protection is beginning an investigation as well. This is such a bizarre thing because, as we talked about, I think it was last week, it might have been the week before, this game, even after the refunds, sold 13 million copies, which means that it made back its entire development and marketing budget. At the same time, CD Projekt Red, which is traded publicly in the Polish stock market, their stocks lost by 50% as a result of all the bad press and the litigation and everything. I've heard it's starting to get good. I know you said your friend said he had it and he liked it. You can't buy it digitally now on anything. I've just never seen anything like this. I've seen games that get rolled out and they're broken or they're missing things, and it takes a long time for them to right the ship. The two biggest examples of that are Final Fantasy 14 and from Squaresoft, which was an MMORPG, and then Hello Games' No Man's Sky, which recently won Game Awards. I've never seen anything like this. Have you talked to your buddy? Is he still like playing and still enjoying?
I haven't heard him say anything bad about it. Last I heard is that he was playing it. I mean, it's super weird, because that was actually going to be my first question when I saw this in there, is like, have you ever seen anything like this? Because I don't follow this kind of news before. It seems like so weird to me that like it's, you put out, it's literally like, to me, this is how I would equate it. Is like you put out a car that doesn't, like, the brakes are faulty. Yeah. But yet people are like, well, you can just get the brakes fixed.
Yeah.
And they'll pay for it. They'll pay for you to have the brakes fixed and things like that. And then it just keeps selling because it had all this hype behind it. And you're like, well, the brakes don't work. Yeah. But you can get them fixed. And it seems so weird to me that, like, because if that happened, let's just say that, Ford put out a car and they're just like, okay, this is going to be like the best Mustang ever made, everything like this. And then they put it out there and like, ooh, the brakes only work about 50% of the time. But that's cool, and we'll pay for you to have it fixed. Well, Ford stock would fall off a cliff.
Yeah, right.
But like millions of people bought it, and it's insane to me how this works. Where it's like, I mean, people just didn't care. Do you think? And who knows? But do you think it has something to do with like everybody is just kind of bored and you can't do anything else? So maybe
this
like
game has
getting
been hyped for so long.
Right.
It was
it's the Keanu game.
Well, sure, but it even before people knew he was in it. It was hyped, and it's been hyped for so long. And this is the first game for this studio since Witcher 3, which was huge. They don't make a ton of games. They were kind of the new, like, everybody after The Witcher came out, Witcher 3. Everybody said, "Oh, they made a better Skyrim game than the people who make Skyrim. They made a better Fallout game than the people who make Fallout. So the next thing that they make is going to be, no matter what, it's going to be awesome." And by all accounts, if you go on and read reviews about the PC version of the game, which works fine, this is a great game. It's a great game, but the issue is that it is on consoles broken. It's broken. They shipped a broken game. And, you equate it to a car. For me, it's like the equivalent of, all right, well, we're going to watch a movie. We're going to watch Captain America Civil War, right? Since we use that as an earlier example. But the movie's going to be completely the same as is, right? Except we're just going to take Robert Downey Jr. out of every scene. But like the people who are still there acting towards Tony Stark are still acting towards him. He's just not there.
Oh my God.
And that's kind of like that's what it's kind of like, is like you got a finished product that's just broken and missing things. And I just feel like, it's just, to me, it's just unacceptable. It's just unacceptable to ship a game in this state. There's a difference between shipping a game and you find out later, like, oh, if you equip these, 10 random things together, it makes it so that your hat turns purple. You know what I mean? Like, that's an easy fix. You can go in and patch that. But to ship a game when it's broken, to the point that this is broken, and this is the thing, is that games have to go through what's called a certification process through PlayStation and Xbox, but unfortunately the process doesn't have anything to do with whether or not a game actually works. It's like, is the Sony emblem in the right spot? Are all the legal things at the bottom of the screens the way that they're supposed to be? And so it doesn't have anything to do with, does the game work the way that it's supposed to work? The result is, unfortunately, they sold 13 million copies, but with all the refunds, they could have sold more than that. If they just would have kicked it another, and now they got a class action lawsuit against them, against investors. I know at some point there will be one from the players, from people who bought this game, and now they have the government is looking into them. It's just been a mess, and I feel bad for the people who developed this game, for the people who worked on it, because like I said, by all accounts, if you have a version of the game that actually works, it is a great game. But I know everybody's pointing their fingers at them, but I can't help but think that, and this is kind of like we talked about with producers in the movie realm, is you have producers, production people in games, and they're the ones who decide, like, okay, this content needs cut from the game, we need to hit these dates, or and they delayed it, and finally the production people said, we got to get this out regardless, and they shipped a game that wasn't ready, and shame on them for doing so.
Like, how's that happen where like a game gets shipped out, like the PC game's fine, but why is this game not, like for Sony, like for the PlayStation not? I don't understand how this happens.
You're just not dealing with the same tool set.
I see.
Okay. If you're developing a game for the highest, it's like if you shoot for the highest thing and it's fine on the highest thing, but you don't spec it down so that it runs on, a PS4 or whatever. A PS4 is not going to run the same way that the highest of high-end PCs is. It's just not. The PS4 at this point is almost 8 years old. They're speccing this thing for PCs that have been built in the last 2 years. So the tool set's just not the same. And you have to downgrade it to hit all those. So like, for an example, as The Witcher 3 is originally a PS4 and an Xbox One game, but they released it on Switch. The Switch isn't anywhere near as powerful as the PS4, but so they had to spec it down. It doesn't run as well. That's the result. And like I said on last week's episode, and we talked about it previously, the Avengers game that got released by Crystal Dynamics had 1,000 bugs fixed in its first patch. I just don't see how that's acceptable for these companies. Because here's the thing, right? I have a retro game collection. I have Final Fantasy III for the Super Nintendo.
Beautiful.
Phoenix Down, which is an item, in that game is spelled Fenix. Phoenix. It's spelled like that forever. Because there's no fixing a cartridge. They didn't have an option in the past. Like, if you screwed up, that's it. It's a wrap. There wasn't any, we'll get it out and we'll fix it later.
Funny.
You know what I mean? So it's just sad that so many people were so excited for this game, and I know that a lot of people have felt let down by it. I've heard plenty of people say that they're going to wait for the official PS5 version rather than play the PS4 version through backwards compatibility and that sort of thing. And at the end of the day, I think that this company will be fine. I just hope they learn their lesson, that they don't.
I mean, if you don't learn your lesson from this, then how do you learn a lesson?
Well, I think the lesson too, and I kind of said this in my bold predictions in last week's episode, is that some of these games, they're going to get delayed because of this. Because people are going to they're going to look at this and they're going to think a little bit better. But the reality of it is that delays, consumers get upset because they're excited for games and they want to play games. But a delay is never a bad thing. And Neil Druckmann, the vice president and or now I guess co-president of Naughty Dog, was on record of saying of the first Last of Us game, they delayed it by 6 weeks. And he said that those 6 weeks was the difference between that game being a good game and a generational game. So if a game gets delayed, it's never a bad thing. It's never a bad thing. It can only mean good things for the game. Number 6, Warner Brothers is offering HBOMAX streaming compensation for filmmakers. According to multiple reports, Warner Brothers is working on deals for new payments to filmmakers and their crews because of the studio's unprecedented move to make all of its theatrical releases in 2020 available on the streaming service for 1 month. The deals will be based partly on the streaming fees as well, and Bloomberg explains that, quote, these payments will guarantee payment regardless of box office sales to anyone to increase the odds of performance-based bonuses, end quote. Per the Bloomberg piece, quote, anyone entitled to a bonus will receive one at half the box office revenue that would normally be required to trigger that payout. And if theaters close, the threshold will fall even further, a stipulation called the COVID multiplier. end quote. COVID-19 multiplier. So this is probably in some respects a little bit to do with Christopher Nolan calling poo-poo on Warner Brothers for sending all their movies to HBOMAX. So, good for them, I suppose, for doing doing the right thing.
This was bound to happen. Is one of those things. I mean, I heard that Dr. Fauci said, probably in the last quarter of the year, people will probably be able to go back to theaters. And
how recently did he say that?
I think it was this past week.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know the vaccine rollout's been a complete disaster.
It's been terrible, right? And, I'm not at all ready to go and do that. That's just going to be a no bueno situation for me for a while. But, it's easy to watch these movies this way. I mean, I had no problem paying the $20 to watch Tenet. I mean, This is one of those things, too, where if you put the movie out there, I'll figure out a way to just, I'll consume it. I don't... here's the thing. That's still cheaper to go and see the movie. I had a great time, and now I own the movie.
Right, sure.
So this is that weird thing, too, where it's it's cool to, of course you're not getting that because a movie like Tenet, I might went and saw twice, and you get more money that way.
Right.
And I totally get that, but, with HBO being able to have it with their Max service and part of the deal or whatever, this is just the fair way of doing things. Without sounding, you have to compensate people for doing something, and we still don't know when people are going to be able to go to movies the way that they did for blockbuster movies. We still have no real idea. Yeah, I mean, it's just to me, this is just fair service. At the end of the day, this is what people should have had and what should have been done initially, but you don't know until you screw something up or until somebody like Christopher Nolan says, hey, you guys are not doing the right thing. And obviously a big time guy, and we'll see what goes. We still, I was saying, we still have no idea when people are going to go back to the movies the way that you could go back to the movies. It's going to take a while. Until everybody's seriously vaccinated and things like that, people are not going to feel comfortable, because that's the thing about movie theaters. Go to a baseball game, you're outside. Movie theaters are gross. Initially, I'm grossed out anyhow normally going to a movie theater, and it's just take that times a billion with everything going on. So but people still want to watch movies. I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, Wonder Woman 84 didn't get critically, but people still are seeing it. I mean, that's a thing. So that's where we're at going forward, at least for a while.
Yeah, I think so. And I just think this is a way to incentivize people to continue to make movies. And I also wonder if this is if this will become the normal thing moving forward, because I don't think you're going to see a return to the theaters as it was. I think you're going to see some of these smaller titles that aren't necessarily the big budget or the movies that are going to make a boatload of cash at the theater. I do think you might see this as an option moving forward, where they do the concurrent thing, or they do the option thing where if it's not going so well after a month or whatever, they can just option it straight to a streaming service. We'll see, but I think that this is, like you said, I think this was just a case of, kind of doing the right thing. All right, we're gonna go clip of the week, and it's our friend Jay from the challenge, and I'm gonna show you him getting eliminated from his season on Survivor. So type into YouTube Jay gets eliminated Survivor, and we're gonna pick the second one.
Jay's amazing. Yep, that's.
Yeah. I can't remember the context.
Jay's Blindside?
Yeah, no.
Survivor, Millennial versus...
Yeah, Survivor Millennials versus Gen X, Jay's Blindside. It's 2 minutes and 35 seconds.
All right.
Oh, wait, this is not the 2 minute 35 second one. This is a different one. Okay.
If anybody has a hidden immunity idol and you want to play it, now would be...
Oh, I actually, remember Jay from seeing him on this now.
Jeff? I'm not going home.
Oh my god.
You guys can chase me, but you gotta be quicker than that.
Wow.
This is not a hidden immunity idol.
Hashtag wow.
Hashtag wow.
It is a work of art, but it has no value in this game.
ask for Jay will count.
Jeff, can I give something to you?
Yes.
Thank you.
This is hilarious.
What? No way.
So this is called the...
You don't have to watch the rest of it at this point. It's just his initial reaction whenever Jeff says that it's
this is
not
nothing.
An immunity idol. Yeah.
Yeah, you are the father.
Yeah.
That was a great clip.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Here's the thing: is like
that was so good.
They do this from time to time, where someone will just make a fake idol and try to pass it off. You can almost always universally tell when it's a fake. So the fact that he bought it, that it was a real one, was just so great. Because he was kind of a prick on that show. He's not as much like that on the challenge, and I think it's because he's one of the littler guys, and he knows if things got a little too squirrely, he'd be in a world of hurt. He was definitely kind of a jerk on Survivor, so to see him go out, and he's like he's like a male airhead, blonde type, so his reaction was just perfect.
It was so good.
Yeah, that was more just for you than it was anybody else, but if you watch the challenge and
it's great. It's worth watching.
Yeah, if you watch the challenge and you just want a little bit of Jay's backstory, there you have it. Jay eliminated on Survivor.
Jay.
We do have a few quick hitters. As I say, some of them are a little bit longer. Nintendo is acquiring Next Level Games. They are the developer of Luigi's Mansion, Super Mario Strikers, and Metroid Prime 3. I just kind of want to throw in this in there because we talk often about, acquisitions that Sony makes or acquisitions that Microsoft made. Obviously, we spent a lot of time in the early episodes talking about them purchasing Bethesda GameWorks. So it's kind of nice to see Nintendo bring a different studio into their family of first-party games developers. I'm pretty sure this was a development team that was only making games for Nintendo anyway. So now they just get they just get some of the big ends bucks with a little bit more security. Ray Fisher, who played Cyborg in the Justice League movie, has been written out of the Flash film and all future DC projects. He also did not participate in any of the Snyder Cut reshoots. Fisher alleged that when Joss Whedon, who was the director of Marvel's Avengers and Toy Story, filled in for Zack Snyder. Most people don't know that. That's where Joss Whedon got his Toy Story.
So funny.
When he filled in for Zack Snyder for the reshoots of the Justice League movie when Zack had to take some personal time, Fisher alleged that the set conditions were abusive, and he's created a good deal of bad blood with the studio. Many of the other actors have gone on the record siding with Fisher on this.
That's super weird. Yeah.
Have you followed this at all?
I saw just like a very like small thing about it, but I haven't really followed it. No, I just find it super weird. Like I've heard different things about like weird set conditions on this, but I didn't realize like everybody was like, oh yeah, this is super bad. And
yeah, it was. And then apparently they asked him to come like to the office or whatever to discuss like his allegations, and he just didn't show up. And it's been a lot of back and forth in the media and things like that. I didn't really care for his character at all. So, like, from a fan's perspective or just a narrative perspective, I don't care about this. If they were abusive, that sucks. Joss Whedon directed The Avengers and Avengers Age of Ultron, by all accounts.
Never heard anything bad from
never
anyone
heard
in
anything
those
bad
movies.
about him, but, you know, I don't think that there's... If Ray Fisher's out there saying that this happened, I don't think there's any reason... to not, at least wonder. So
yeah, why would he? I guess if you're being written out of something or whatever, you might have some but to make those kind of allegations is a next step further than just being upset. So yeah.
No Borat 3. Sasha Baron Cohen. I wrote Sasha Borat Cohen. Sasha Baron Cohen of the Steve Cohen brothers stated that he brought Borat out of retirement specifically for Donald Trump and does not see a reason for the character to reemerge in the future. Let's hope not. And I don't mean that from I don't think Borat's not funny standpoint. I just mean that from the standpoint of let's hope that things don't get so bad that he's going to bring Borat out to parody them.
Well, that was literally my point. It was just like, you don't want Borat 3 to exist because you don't want crap to get bad again. Yeah. Like, let's just... because that's the whole reason that the initial one happened. This is the, it's like it was to, kind of point out that these people are crap, and he doesn't, I'm guessing that Sasha Baron Cohen, like, that's why he's doing. He's like, I'm retiring because I am hopeful that things will go on the right track going forward, and we won't have this kind of thing.
Yeah, we'll see. Marvel is under pressure to retire the Punisher character and logo. This comes from creator Jerry Conway, who writes that the character and symbol have been adopted by force as a symbol of oppression, which it was never meant to be. He's launching a fundraiser to reclaim the images and hand them over to the Black Lives Matter movement because he intended the symbol to be a representation of the systematic failure of equal justice and wants to help use the symbol and the character to raise awareness and push towards equal justice. I found this pretty interesting. I think the Punisher, specifically the logo, is very synonymous in many ways with police and military forces, so I can kind of see why he feels that way.
Yeah, and going back on it, the character was never about any of that. It's it's funny how obviously it's one of those things where I will tell you, there is not a single person in this world that has that logo on their car and has read a word of the Punisher comic books. That's the funny thing about it, and also the sad thing about it.
I'll give some people the benefit of the doubt, but I'm gonna agree with you that most people,
it's you have no idea. You just see the symbol, you're like, this looks cool, and he's called the Punisher. So I'm gonna. And it's a bummer that it went this direction, but Marvel being under pressure and they could have done this beforehand. It's just you have to be in this moment too, where you're like, well, this is never what this was meant to be. Yeah. In the comic books, he is more of this guy of he's this, because cops weren't doing their job, he was taking care of what the cops weren't doing. And, that's literally what it was about. It isn't actually about and for whatever you think of anything going on in the current circumstances, is it's actually the opposite of what people think it stands for.
Yeah,
it
exactly.
Which is really, really funny. Yeah.
I always thought that he was a superhero who persecuted people who made bad puns.
Oh, yeah.
Which would in turn make him himself a bad pun, and thus
that'd be great. Yes.
Yeah, there's a paradox there. An
oxymoron of
something. There's going to be an Indiana Jones game coming from Bethesda Studios, so it'll be
Tomb Raider.
Sure. It'll be Tomb Raider and Uncharted, which are just Indiana Jones. So.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Whatever. And it'll be probably a timed Xbox exclusive or some. That's probably they're probably making it to try to compete with Uncharted, which
it's not going to do that.
In the words of Morgan Freeman in The Dark Knight, good luck. So, media recommendations from you, my good sir.
I watched a lot of football this past weekend, which was fun because I haven't really been able to watch football because I work on Sundays, but I had Saturday evening off, and so it was fun to get back to the NFL. Football's still fun even without fans. I'm going to point that out there. I still had a great time watching it. So I did that. Still basically listening to the same music, but bringing it back to what I was saying in the initial show, where we were talking about how music influences us. I bought a mandolin online.
You bought a mandolin?
I bought a mandolin. I'm going to be playing some bluegrass. So get ready. There might be a special bluegrass intro to this show in the coming months. It's going to be awesome. I'm excited. Yeah. So that's where I'm at. That's my media recommendations, is that I might be media recommended by someone.
You are.
I might also.
You're media recommended for your pizza reviews.
That's true. I also, because I was joking the other day where I was just the only thing stopping me from just being completely powerful is I can't sing. So then my friends you should get singing lessons. So I may do that and be completely unstoppable.
I feel like there's better things to spend your money on.
But if I got that, then I could just bust anywhere. I could just start singing, and it would be incredible. That would be the. I mean, it doesn't really stop me anyhow.
I'm actually really happy that you mentioned that, because I have to tell you a few things. So this past week, and it'll all come full circle, I promise you. This past week, some of the dine-in bans lifted in Pennsylvania, and you can have like
Woof.
50% capacity or whatever. So we went out and got lunch. We were out getting groceries, and then we just got lunch somewhere. And MLB Network was showing Game 6 of the 2016 World Series. And Melissa said that I was just despondent. My face was just, like, you could just see the pain in my eyes. In that same restaurant...
we should probably tell people why, by the way.
No, we shouldn't.
No? Okay. All right.
The Harry Styles Watermelon song came on.
Yeah.
That song's horrible.
Oh, get out of here.
It's terrible.
No, it's great.
It's like yeah, exactly. It's like one step above Yummy in my eyes.
No, it's so much better.
No, it's garbage. I hate to break it to you. You and I agree on a lot of things, but this is where I put my foot down. That song sucks. I'm just saying
Amazing
it.
song.
And he can wear a dress and do whatever and be in a Christopher Nolan movie, and that's all fine. That song sucks. And we're just going to have to agree to disagree. Okay?
Fair enough.
The
video's great.
Sure. Maybe. I didn't know that music videos were still a thing. My media recommendations. I watched the History of Swear Words, obviously. I've been playing Sackboy's Big Adventure. I'm going to beat the game probably tonight. I'll go back and get trophies and stuff. I started to mess around with Maneater. It doesn't control the way I want to. Like, conceptually, it's hilarious because, like, the first level, you're just, like, eating all these people on a beach. Like, you're this shark and you're just eating all these people on a beach. So it's really funny from that perspective, and I do intend to play it a little bit more, but it just doesn't control as crisply as I would like. And then I know I said I would have it finished this week, but I'm not. I think I have like maybe 90 pages to go of Ready Player 2. It's just not as good as the first one. And like part of the reason it's taking me so long is the middle of it is so Ready Player One, the book and the movie is it's just all it is one big pop culture reference, basically. Like,
right.
And that's what kind of I don't always like about Ernest Cline's writing. And I've read all 3 of his books, but he just pulverizes you with these references. You can't make it 2 paragraphs without there being some reference to a song or a TV show or a game or a movie, and that's great, and that's what we do. I mean, that's why we do this podcast, is for pop culture stuff, but it's just so heavy-handed. And the difference between the first one and the second one is I cared about the pop culture references in the first one, and I don't care about any of them in the second one. Like, I don't give a crap about John Hughes movies from the 1980s. Like, I don't care about... Like, I've seen Breakfast Club, fine, but I don't care about 16 Candles. I don't care about Prince and his collected works.
Oh, no.
It's just stuff I don't care about. And so, like, it's just more of a drag to read. And it's, like, it doesn't... Thematically, he could have taken some chances and, like, really done some stuff, but he just didn't. And that's kind of a bummer because it's like the story is just, it's just the first book over again, you know, spoilers, but you know, in many respects, but I'll get through it and, you know, that'll be good. Cause then I'll have read a book this year. And I think I only read like 2 last year. So
I've been struggling to read, just being so busy, but yeah, I'm gonna get through the Neapolitan novels, and I got some nonfiction I'm looking forward to this year.
The Neapolitan novels, is it like 3 novels and one of them's vanilla and one of them's strawberry and one of them's chocolate?
Yeah, but they added pistachio just to have a 4th flavor.
That's stupid.
Yeah, but pistachio is delicious.
No, it's not.
Ice cream. Oh, what? I don't like pistachio.
This might be the most we've disagreed.
I know. I like it. It's like we're Stephen A. and whoever else hosts that show.
Stop. They just say things to say things. Oh, boy.
That's true.
The BXG podcast publishes every Friday morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 12 p.m. No, 11.
4 a.m. Pacific.
4 a.m. Pacific. God, I don't know what the hell I was talking about. 12 7 a.m., 4 a.m. Pacific podcast.
2 a.m. Hawaii.
What am I talking about? I think I'm having a stroke. Follow us on Instagram at BXG Podcast, at GTFills, at Y2B. Follow us on Twitter, or don't. That's really not going to... none of us are going to be upset if you don't follow us on Twitter. Do check out the Peach Reviews on youtube.com/BXG Podcast, and then some of the other things are going to be going on there. Join our Facebook page, facebook.com/BXG Podcast. Email us, bxgpodcast@gmail.com. And I feel like there's something else. Oh, yeah, Soul. We did a Soul review in the last episode, so check that out.
Yeah.
Disney Pixar Soul. That movie scared the hell out of my son. It's crazy. Like, he won't, like, he's struggling to go to sleep at night because he's afraid of 22 turning into a lost soul. Spoilers. But
oh, yeah.
He's
I get that, I guess.
He's he's been real skittish lately. It was because he insisted on watching Soul with me, which I didn't have any reason to believe that would have been a movie that scared him. It wasn't like it was Pet Sematary. You know what I mean?
Right.
But here we are.
Oh, dang.
Yeah, so check us out on all those, and we're going to be having a guest on here soon. We'll be doing our extra episode pretty soon for the month of January. I was thinking about that. I was like, yeah, we should probably get around to doing that, and then I looked down and the month's already half over. So that's something.
Well, it happens.
Yeah, it does happen. So check that out. Check out our buddy Dallas DJ Outros podcast. It's going to be coming out. We'll have more information on that when it happens and everything. So, yeah, tell your friends, tell your family,
Tell your mothers
about the unmistakable essence of the BXG podcast, unofficially sponsored by the innocence of LaCroix water.
So innocent.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for listening.